The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another Mayberry Investor Forum. I'm your host, Dan Theox, Senior Vice President of Investment Banking. Today's discussions will be about Jamaica Broilers Group Limited, and joining us today, we have the Group President and CEO, Mr. Christopher Levy. Welcome, Chris.
Dan, good to see you again.
Also joining us online, we have our CEO, Gary Parrott, and in studios with us today is our Executive Chairman, Christopher Berry. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Gary.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Great. Glad to have you all here. If you're a fan of the content, subscribe to stay up to date with our uploads and be sure to hit the like bell to receive all of our notifications. We publish videos like this every single week. And if you're looking to embark on your very first investment journey, take that step with Mayberry Investments Limited. Follow us on social media today and get started. Now, as we said before, we're going to go over Jamaica Broilers Group today. Jamaica Broilers Group is a progressive, vertically integrated company with operations spanning in 3 countries. This structure allows it to improve efficiency and quality in ways that impact the bottom line for stakeholders. JPG continues to take the agribusiness to the next level. This is evident in its internationally certified facilities managed and maintained to the highest levels in Jamaica. Not to mention a complete vertically integrated operation spanning 6 states in the U.S. and a growing market in Haiti. Maybe you've exited Haiti, and we'll discuss that, Chris.
Sure.
Very impressive stuff indeed. Now let's take a bit about the boss behind. Let's talk a little bit about the boss behind JPG, none other than Christopher Levy, who's no stranger to our program. In 2009, he assumed the role of president and CEO at JPG. He has been highly regarded as an astute corporate leader in the industry. The scope of his leadership has grown exponentially with the acquisition of several significant assets in the group's U.S. operations. His recent appointment as chairman of the Special Economic Zone Authority places him in a position to impact the way forward for Jamaica in a critical time in our global history. He also serves as a director of the Jamaican Broilers Group Foundation, Caribbean Poultry Association, Solarfield Chapel Outreach Foundation, Moorlands Camp Limited, Stony Brook University, New York, USA, and the Global Orphan Project in Haiti. Today, he'll be telling us a little bit about Jamaica Broilers Group, and so we are happy to have you back with us, Chris. Welcome back again.
Thank you very much, Dan. Awesome to be here.
Excellent. As usual, folks, we'll have some Q&A at the end of the program, so make sure to send us your questions early on social media, and I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Before we jump into the questions, though, as usual, we like to take a little look at what's happening over at JPG, and so we have their financial results for the 6 months ended October 30th. If we could bring that up. Hopefully I got my date right. First slide, guys. And unfortunately, we timed this a little bit wrong because I'm thinking your January results are going to be out next week, Chris. I know we can't discuss them, but just bear that in mind, folks. We look forward with bated breath to see what your third quarter will look like. I'm going to guess you're going to do exceptionally well because, that's how you guys roll over at JPG. But for the half year, guys, bear with me. Let's just go over this. Great results. We're clearly completely out of whatever you call that thing that was before that I can't quite say, the pandemic. And we can see them kicking like Vandam. Half-year results, $45.8 billion in revenues. That's up 31%. That flows right through to a 53% increase in the gross profit, up to $11.1 billion. And a 159% increase in their operating profit to $4.4 billion. And this is for the half year, people, for the half year. Finance costs up by about 41% to $756,000, and that results in the profit before taxation growing by a whopping 209% to $3.7 billion. They also had some losses from discontinued operations of about $1 billion, which resulted in a profit after tax of about $3 billion, $3.7 billion. And then finally, with profit attributable to members of $2 billion. So that $1 billion discontinued operations, don't worry, we'll be asking Chris about that. I suspect that relates to their exit or exiting from Haiti. We'll be discussing that. But net, $2.1 billion profit attributable to stockholders. That's an EPS for the half year of $1.73, a 135% improvement over the prior comparable period. So great stuff there. Excellent results. Other things on the balance sheet, total assets increasing by 23% to $66 billion. Shareholders' equity growing by 20% to $23.1 billion. So great reserves in the tank. Great overall general performance. Business is generating good cash flows. They're reinvesting in the business. We see very good capital expenditure taking place. And we can clearly see JPG managing their cash flows and their balance sheet very responsibly. They've restructured their debt, most of their debt, raised good fixed term rate debt at relatively low interest rates. Approximately half the debt's in J dollars, half the debt is in US dollars, and they just seemed really poised for growth. The reward for that is a stock price of $36.50, which based on the trailing earnings of $4.3 billion results in a PE ratio of 10 times. So stock is, in my view, fairly valued at $36.50 in a main market that trades with a 10 times PE. The difference is the growth potential of JPG, which makes me think that this stock is still undervalued. Next slide. This shows the quarterly performance, and again, pay attention to the last 4 running quarters. It seems like if you can't do $1 billion per quarter, you're not saying anything. So that's the standard going forward. That explains the $4 billion training earnings. So Mr. Levy, $1 billion, go home, or give us $1 billion in the next quarter coming up. Next slide shows the growth of this business over the last decade. And, this is impressive. I bought JPG 5 years ago, got a little advice from the chairman at $23, and stock's up to $36, that's 50% growth. But what's even more impressive is how they've grown the revenues over this period. 5 years ago, revenues were $34 billion, and we're seeing them doing $45 billion in the half year. So if you annualize that, we're talking about $96 billion in revenues. It wasn't until 2015 that the company comfortably broke the $1 billion profit per year target. And here we are 8 years later, and they're doing $1 billion per quarter. So it's a business that shows really strong growth potential. And with that growth, the balance sheet has grown, but you still can see them managing inventories very comfortably. Inventory days are like 72 days, and I'm sure they've had some logistic challenges during the pandemic that's made them, be carrying a little bit more than normal. But 72 days is still respectable. Receivables at 25 days. Their biological assets have grown tremendously. And what I like about this, Chris, I hope I'm getting this right, you guys have something like 11 million birds and 8 million eggs. This is 11 million birds.
Those are good numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Produced 72 million birds in the last year, 31 million eggs, people. So, he teased me offline and said, I'm just a guy selling chicken and eggs, but 70 million birds, people, 31 million dozen eggs, I beg your pardon, 31 million dozen eggs. So it's a massive business, growing from strength to strength. I can find very little to complain about. Next slide shows graphically, last 10 years, this journey to $76 billion revenue. I think they're going to do $90 billion in the next year, and how they've grown the profitability now to $4 billion, coming from less than $1 billion. So, great performance there. Final slide shows how the stock price has traded, and a little bit up and down, but trading in a band in the previous year that was around about $28 space. In the last 3-4 months, we see it trading up a little bit to $36, and this despite the main market losing about 20% value in the last 6 months. So JPG has outperformed the market for sure in the last 6 months. We've generally seen PE ratios tightening up on the main market from 12 times down to 10 times. There are a few good stocks trading as low as 8 times, and JPG has done a good job of standing up in that regard. So it's a great buy for big pension funds, big long-term investors, anybody who believes in Jamaica. There are very few manufacturing companies out there, with real assets in the ground, turning these types of numbers and showing the type of growth potential that they're showing with, more than 40% of their revenues now coming out of North America. And business is just, poised for growth, especially in North America. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I don't need to hide. I'm in love with JPG. The results, I'm a very satisfied shareholder, Mr. Levy. So, keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that's our analysis. Let me declare my conflicts as usual. Mayberry is a top 10 shareholder, doesn't bias my analysis, but I just want to let you guys out there know that. We're a little shareholder in the scheme of things, although we are top 10, we're talking about less than 3% ownership. It's a stock we like. It's a stock we're bullish on. And, I really look forward to coming back in the next year, Chris, on your annual visit to see how much further you've grown your asset base to, how much further you've grown the revenues to, and obviously also the profitability. Okay, first question from me. Approximately how many more quarters will be impacted by the loss from discontinued operations in Haiti?
With the discontinuation of Haiti is a very difficult subject because that country is in a very, very difficult space, and we had to take the decision to close our operations there.
Mm-hmm.
We took all of that write-off in the second quarter, Dan, and it was a big one, a big hit, but we decided to put it all into the second quarter there that you've seen. So I don't think there'll be anything of any significance going forward in terms of the financial side of things at all.
Right. Okay, good to know. So again, folks, the $4 billion trailing earnings includes $1 billion write-off from Haiti, and it's unlikely that we're going to see any other substantial exit cost associated with that. Second one for me, Chris, are there any plans to expand to other larger Caribbean countries to replace, the Haiti operations?
No, I think right now our plate is quite full with our investments and opportunities in the United States and Jamaica. And I think the opportunities that we're seeing in both countries are significant enough to keep us focused.
Keep your plate full.
Yeah.
And more than 30% growth here in Jamaica, substantially more to come, I think, out of North America in particular. I mean, you care to share a little bit about your growth strategy or your thoughts or vision for what's happening in North America?
Well, let me start a little bit. I think the last couple of quarters have been very exciting for us in a lot of ways. We made a lot of restructuring decisions, impacted a lot of folks, including Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
And the real focus of the company is being in a position that allows us to maximize our revenues, maximize our profits, and really look at where growth can come from.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge in Jamaica is needle moving investments are hard for where we are as an organization now. But when you look at it, if you look at our return on equity running at the end of quarter two at about 14.5, that's still not back up to pre-COVID levels, Dan.
Right.
And that's one of the areas that we're very focused on. So whilst the numbers have grown, we need to recognize the impact that we've had on that COVID has had on us, and the pandemic, and just the fallout and from that has had a material impact on the organization.
And understandably so. I mean, I noticed, for instance, in your inventories, you're carrying $1 billion more goods in transit alone, $1 billion more grains. And so I suppose that's aspect of the logistics.
It's so true. One of the biggest areas that we've had to invest in is what I'd call the biological assets of the company.
Yes.
The cost of grain and the cost of raw materials have doubled. So we've had to finance that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've literally put more equity into the company in some ways. which has driven the need for us to perform better because now you have more capital invested.
Yes, yes.
And it has definitely been a time where we've had to make some hard choices. But the operations that we have now are clean, running smooth, and we have a great team both here and in the US. And we're excited about how the trajectory that we're on. But we've had to put a lot of money into inventories. There's no doubt about that.
Yep, it shows up.
Yeah.
Chairman, I don't want to hog all the questions. Let me make some space for you. I'm sure you have a question or two for Chris Levy.
Yes, Chris, welcome.
Thank you,
Welcome
sir.
once
Good to be here.
again. My question is, U.S. market, very big, very competitive. Most of the players there are a gazillion times bigger than JBG. Tell us about how, what are the niches you're looking at and why we should believe that a little Jamaican company can compete with these big badass U.S. companies. Tell me about that.
I think, Chris, the market, as you put it, up there is extremely competitive. There's no doubt about it. It's a different makeup than our situation and our culture and that sort of thing. But one thing we've realized up there is that the key to our success is agility. To be able to move into spaces that the larger players take longer to move in. And as the market demand shifts and moves, whether it's moving into a supermarket segment or whether it's moving into a food service segment, the opportunity for us to be flexible and take these quick, agile steps allows us to just continually build the brand, which is really doing well up there, and broaden our customer base. So
when you say the brand, Chris, are you selling
Best Dressed Chicken?
Best Dressed Chicken?
Everything is branded Best Dressed Chicken.
Okay.
So what we find is that as that brand gets into various supermarkets, there is a tremendous, not recognition because not everybody up there knows, but it's a new brand and they're interested in it. And the ability for us to service customers and develop those relationships have really been a tremendous asset to us.
If I'm not mistaken, you're in 20 states now, Chris. That's what I read in your annual report, at least. So you're expanding.
I'll be honest with you, I can't keep track of all the states that we sell in.
Yes, yes.
I know we have operations in 6, but we have such broad customer bases up there now. And let me tell you, the opportunity for growth in the United States is the makeup of the country. Mm-hmm. You're either growing or you're dying. There is no pause. It's the economy and the customers and the employees don't allow that. So it's not like you can get to a situation and say, okay, we're good and we're going to stop here. That's not on the cards in that environment.
And you've had a really impressive track record in the last 3 years. And tell me, I read this and I wanted to try to understand what I read when I see that International Poultry Breeders won 2 awards. One was for first place in egg hatching per hen house, and one was the second place in total hatching. I mean, what exactly are you saying here? You're not saying you're the largest hatchery in the U.S.
No. What happened is one of the products that we sell up there are fertile eggs, and we are the largest commercial producer of fertile hatching eggs. Wow. And we sell that all over. We export a lot out of the United States.
What do you mean by the largest? The largest where?
In the United States.
Okay.
The largest commercial. So what I mean by that is if you take a large company like Tyson, they're producing more fertile eggs, but it's for their own use. We're producing fertile eggs and selling it to customers around the world. Canada, Latin America, all over. Jamaica, the Caribbean.
So you're biggest in the U.S., you're biggest in Canada too?
We're the largest commercial hatching egg producer in the U.S., yeah.
Wow.
You're biggest in the Caribbean too?
Oh, yeah.
Biggest in Jamaica too?
Yes. We're the only breeder flock operation in
biggest
Jamaica.
In the world?
No.
Who beating us?
somebody in Europe.
Oh, we gotta kick your ass, man. We can't do that.
Well, it's all part of the game.
Yes.
But, so what happened is the breeders then give awards to who performs the best in terms with their birds.
Got it.
And that's what we won.
Got it. Well, I mean, that is impressive to think. I mean,
Yeah, man.
I know
Great team.
a little, but with Taloa, I mean,
Great team.
this extends to best dressed chicken as well too. I read it and I said to myself, I've got to ask Chris this question because this is not exactly making sense to me, but it does make perfectly
Great
good
team.
sense.
So
now.
next question from me, Chris. The margins in the US compared to the margins in Jamaica. Tell us about that. How does that work?
The market up there is different. There's a lot more consistency in pricing in Jamaica. And whilst the margins in Jamaica at times will be considerably lower, at times they'll be higher. So the market ebbs and flows based completely on demand and supply. It's a very pure market in that regard. So we went through a time actually in the first half of this year where the pricing for products in the US was under a lot of pressure. And the team up there was amazing because of that agility that I mentioned and the wisdom to enter into various supply contracts that gave us some good price stability. And I think that as we move into a different space, the margins in the US can outpace Jamaica, which they will,
So long story short, you would say like in the last 12 months, Jamaica been beating the US in terms of margins.
If we look at it over 12 months, no. It's probably very, very equal. But in the last 6 months, yes, without a doubt, Jamaica has had stronger margins than the US.
Great. And hey, Gary, over to you. I'm sure you have a question or two for Chris before I get going.
Boy, be so excited the two of you are. I thought you forgot me.
We did for a second.
Levy, afternoon. I was reading an article where they're saying there's likely to be a shortage of eggs in the near future in the US. Based on how you have explained how the market works, do you expect to see much greater margins in the upcoming year?
Well, I think that article is really talking, Gary, about table eggs, and we're not in that space. We're in the fertile eggs. However, the margins and pricing for fertile eggs is very, very good right now because there is a tightness in the market.
So what's the difference between the fertile eggs and the table eggs?
Oh, me first. I'm guessing the table eggs are the ones you sell in the grocery stores. Yeah. The fertile eggs are the ones you sell for hatcheries.
The table eggs are the frying pan eggs, Gary.
That's right.
The fertile eggs is what grows into chickens.
The hatcheries.
That's right.
No, I just wanted to make sure if I couldn't find any eggs in the US, I could call Levy and get some. But my hunt continues.
I'm not in a position to respond to that.
But I mean, the question follows. I mean, why I guess the table eggs comes from eggs which are hatched from your eggs. I mean, so by extension, wouldn't you see some margin expansion?
Wrong again.
If that occurs?
Lick him again, Chris. Wrong again.
Two different products. One is a B2C, one is a B2B.
No, he was saying that the table eggs come from the fertile. No. We don't sell those kind of eggs. Explain him, Chris. Explain him.
Two different products altogether, Gary.
Are we going to do that? This is a classic case of does the chicken come first or the egg?
Becomes a chicken.
Yes.
And the chicken lay egg that we eat.
No.
Explain him.
Chicken 1. We're going to go to chicken 0.5. Ready?
Right.
All right. Two different product lines. The chicken that lays a fertile egg is a chicken that lays a chicken egg, but then you have male roosters that fertilize the eggs, and those go and produce your baby chicks. The layers that produce the table eggs is a completely different bird. So
you don't build a bird then?
No, sir.
So
different market, different industry, a lot of difference.
Guys, you heard it first.
So think about it like this, G. One of the big things that drive this industry is genetics, right? So the genetics of a frying bird is different from the genetics of a laying bird.
That's right.
So you don't mix up your birds, or else you could get in trouble with your wife.
Right. So the question, Evie, is that a marketplace you would enter?
No, we don't want to be in that space. It's a different industry altogether. Yes, it's part of the poultry industry, but it's a whole different dynamic, Gary. And where we've positioned is that our fertile egg business is the baseline business for Jamaica broilers, both here and in the United States. But we have been able to move further up the value chain to produce meat. And that's the line that we're taking.
Okay.
So some of our listeners, I think, will be interested in this. But so I'm gonna ask Chris a question, and he's gonna explain it. So one of the things about fertile eggs is that even though a chicken producer might produce their own fertile eggs, like say we do that in Jamaica, right, Chris?
Yes, that's correct.
There's a certain risk factor where you don't want to do all your eggs from one place.
That's right.
So we were always importing fertile eggs from abroad. And so Chris, give him the picture on that one.
Basically what happens is the fertile egg that produces that baby chick is the start of the process. And we've taken a risk mitigation strategy where 50% of our production for our Jamaica operations is here in Jamaica, out in St. Ann. And then the others is from 3 different states in the United States.
But why is it important to not just produce? Why couldn't we produce all of them in Jamaica? What's the importance of that?
If you have a disease issue or a hurricane issue, anything like that, your business stops. So you cannot put, quote, all your eggs in one basket.
Eggs in one basket. So it actually
I
is
knew
a
that's
real
where you were
source.
in it.
So what's the outlook?
I think overall, Gary, I think we're very positive for a couple of reasons. First of all, we're very encouraged with the Jamaican economy. We see good fundamentals. We see good tourism. We see good unemployment. We see a stable dollar. And those things build confidence, and our outlook for our products and opportunities for export out of Jamaica are very encouraging. I think the United States, we're just finishing up an expansion there, and we do feel very encouraged about that from a product quality and what I would call just the ability to execute to customers, because the margin of error for execution in the United States is really zero. Because if you think about it carefully, when you go to the supermarket, you actually don't choose which chicken you see. There might be 10 different brands out there. Who chooses that are the folks in the supermarket, in the meat room, the purchasers, those sort of folks. And you'll then choose one of the 3 that they may choose. So you have no margin of error when it comes to being on that shelf. And I think some of the investments that we've made up there have allowed us to execute considerably better, have really driven us deeper into that ability to be agile and move fast and be quick on our feet with our products. And as I mentioned, the fertile eggs is, the market there is looking strong, and I think we'll continue to see good results there. So we have a great team, made some smart decisions, and the Lord has blessed us in the most amazing way.
Amen to that. So again, folks, I can't help but repeat this again. I mean, they produced 72 million birds in the last year. That's up 50%, by the way, from what you produced in 2019, Chris. So again, impressive to see the investment, the growth in the production, and 31 million dozen eggs. And what I'm now appreciating is these are the hatchery eggs, fertile eggs. So not the table eggs, the fertile eggs.
But we've expanded. You see, we've done some tremendous investments in Jamaica as well, Dan. I mean, we've expanded into a second hatchery here in Jamaica recently, and expanded that hatchery some more. Our growth, where we're seeing a lot of growth opportunity in Jamaica, is really around exports and further processing. And that's quite an encouraging, because you're spreading out that product line and that brand, so.
Yes, Chris, I want to hear more about the export part because as I fly around the Caribbean, I see a lot of what I would call not so Jamaica broilers like chicken operations, and I always wonder how come we don't sell more product into those places.
Well, we actually sell all of those local producers, whether it's in Barbados or Trinidad or Guyana. We actually are selling them the fertile eggs. We're selling them a lot of the feed ingredients, the chicken houses, the technology, and so that's all happening out of our U.S. operations. What we're seeing though is that there is a tremendous demand for our further processed products. That's our wings, our nuggets, tenders, those sort of things. And we probably are exporting roughly about 4 to 5 containers a week of that product around the Caribbean, which is pretty good, to be quite frank. And then Cayman is a big market for us as well. And so I think we're looking for some great growth. But again, in the context of things, it's great for Best Rest Chicken Jamaica, and it will be significant to them and creating opportunities there. But as the overall needle mover, it's one of the things we have to think bigger as an organization about, you know?
Well, I couldn't let you leave without answering this very tough question. So,
all right.
You know, some of my friends, they're huge retailers, huge importers, and they're always making the claim that the government is protecting you and they can import chicken a lot cheaper and da. So I need you to address that issue and tell me, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think a country has to determine the industries it wants. I think that the leadership and the population make that decision as a nation. Could we import chicken? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And folks would love that. However, the poultry industry is the largest agricultural industry in Jamaica. It's one that deals with stuff like food security, rural employment. It has some of the greatest technological advancements in the industry right here in Jamaica. The challenge that we face as a nation is that once we start moving away from local production and the development of agriculture as a one leg of our stool, the entire makeup of our economy will change for the worse. And we've seen it in Haiti as a testimony. They had a poultry industry. They had a tremendous agricultural industry, exporting mangoes, pears, tomatoes, all of these sort of things, rice, and that was wiped out. And in 5 years' time, it was done. And now you look at the country that is next door to us. And we need to recognize agriculture plays a very, very significant role in our country. That's more than just the price of chicken or the price of lettuce or the price of pork. It plays a role that, quite frankly, is probably as critical as any other industry to this nation. Forget the taxes and all of that. But in terms of the role that it plays, the stability that it brings to the country cannot be replaced.
A follow-up question on that same issue. I know most of the feed that feeds these chickens is imported.
Yeah.
And that there's a conversion ratio. It takes more feed to produce a pound of chicken. So there's a disadvantage. I know in the cattle industry in the U.S., most of the cows go up to the Chicago area because that's where most of the grain is. It's cheaper to fatten the cattle there and then ship the beef all over the world. Is there any possibility of us ever having a local food base for these chickens that's cheaper than importing the grain?
No, you're talking about the most efficient economy in terms of a commodity in the world, whether it's from Brazil, Argentina, or the U.S. In terms of the grain raw material, I think where our vision on that raw material security needs to be bigger is when you look at the landmass that's in, like Guyana, for example. Guyana could produce enough grain for the poultry industry in this region. Belize, again, could produce grain. We don't have the land to do it. And I'll just give you a reference, Chris. If we took all of the cane lands, which are less now, but when it was in cane, and produced corn at the best yields seen in the United States, it would represent 3 months of corn supply to Jamaica Broilers in Jamaica.
Wow.
That's
So
a
we need to
wow to the
recognize-
wow, wow, wow.
So you need to recognize our thinking on this has to be bigger. Now you look at Guyana as a sister country. They have a tremendous future with the oil, but they can also have a tremendous future with agriculture. And I've met with the ministers down there and said, listen, this is the role you can play in CARICOM. And the opportunity for them and for us for greater security around that raw material is real. So
Excellent. Thanks for that insight. And I agree too, because when you think of food security generally, going back to the chairman's first question, we want to be producing as much as we can right here at home in Jamaica, creating the jobs right here in Jamaica. And I think that's the way to go. If not, quite frankly, we would do nothing in Jamaica, because there's very, very little we can do here better than other places at scale, including growing marijuana, it seems. But I won't go there. Gary, one more question to you before I jump over to social media, because I've got lots of questions coming in.
Well, it's really a follow-on to Chris's point. Some people don't invest in the stock because of the fear that one day a government might disagree with Levy's. Because I keep calling him Levy because there's a Levy and Berry there with Levy's position. And the question is, do successive governments or does even this government have a policy position on that? For in terms of the long-term future or the long-term policy of a government, that giving their support to local poultry is the way to go.
Well, I hear you, Gary, but I'd reference something that the company is 63 years old, and we've been having this discussion for 63 years, and we probably will have it for another 63 years. I think that every business has one risk or the other. I think it would be extremely reckless for any government to wake up one morning and say, all right, we're going to end the poultry industry. There are over 200,000 small farmers across this island. That small farmer base makes up roughly 35% of the production in this country. So you need to recognize it's not just Jamaica Broilers or Best Rest Chicken and Caribbean Broilers. 35% of the production of this country is produced by small farmers across this nation.
How do those small farmers compete and stay in business? Why are they even in the market? Can you tell us how that works?
Yeah, basically it's usually obviously rural lady, female, mother usually, and they'll buy 100 chickens, and it will be a second stream of income for them in their family. And they'll have their chicken house, and they'll feed the chickens, and then what will happen is they will, whenever slaughter time comes, they get their family, they slaughter it, it'll go into a freezer, they might sell it because their uncle has a jerk shop, or them kind of sell it wherever, little local right there. And it's a tremendous industry. And it is very deep and very passionate. And the thing about it is that it has supplemented these rural folks for many, many years. And it's a critical part of the economic fabric of our country.
Yeah, I remember when we were working on the IPO back in when was it, 92?
92.
Yeah, back in 92. It was the same 35%.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, they're not doing it with assistance, the technical assistance from Jamaica Broilers, right? They're just out there on their own.
Yeah, well, Chris, no, actually, what has happened? Well, I want two comments. First of all, 35% then and 35% no. Think of that. That's a tremendous
tremendous growth.
Huge. you know. But what we've realized is that the better they do, the better we do, especially from a biosecurity point of view. So we've actually invested a lot in their support. Lab facilities at White Mall, where we have our high-pro farm store, and it's doing amazing. And we have techs that go out to these small farmers. We have feeder farm meetings where we go into community and we will have technical meetings with just small farmers, like in a school, and you'll get 200 of them.
And these are not farmers that is selling back to you, right?
No,
these are just
small rural farmers. And then what we realized is that having such a base there, we started to talk about life skills, and we started to talk about family, and we started to talk about how the Lord can impact them. And it has just, we have 2 people, and that's all they do. Interact with the small farmers on that basis. Then we have all that technical support behind them as well. And it's great, whether it's vet services, lab services, any of that.
You think you can get it up to 40%?
The small farmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're going, look here, they're going to grow with the economy, and they're going to grow. Remember, for them, entry is low and exit is low because they're only one crop invested. And the thing about it is that they'll have a little extra money this month and they go buy some chickens. Next month, they mightn't be in it till Easter, and they put down birds for Easter, or they put down birds for back to school and sell it to get a little school money. So it's very opportunistic. You do have regular ones that just keep turning it, and they're a little bit more.
But overall, it's kind of consistent though, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to produce chicks for their needs.
Chicks feed. Big part of our business is working with that 35%. Big part. So it's pretty cool.
And as part of your vertical integration, you're sort of helping them all along the way. You're providing the chicks, the feeding, the support, and then buying the end product. And the turnaround times, is it down to 6 weeks now, I'm told?
Yeah.
6 weeks? Wow.
We really, as an organization, enjoy working with people and seeing them grow. It's in our DNA, and we've really been able to realize that in our farmer base and the small farmer base. Because when you look at it, one of the groups of people that consistently invest in Jamaica Broilers and reinvest is our farmer base. And in a lot of ways, people don't see them, but they're the ones who have put up their capital and their sweat equity and taken an investment in the company, different than a shareholder.
Yeah.
They've put their money up there and their livelihood and their land and their blood, sweat, and tears. And they're an amazing part of this organization, too.
Approximately how many partners do you have, you would say,
in
Chris?
that regard, we're around 60 farmers, 60 contract farmers in that regard.
Right, excellent. Creating thousands of jobs. And folks, we talk a lot about tourism, but, agriculture employs 5 times as much as tourism. And they complement each other, right? So as
Absolutely.
we see the hotel sector expanding, 4,000 rooms coming, more tourists coming here, eating more chicken.
Build it. Eat more chicken.
Absolutely.
Build it. More hotel rooms, more employment, more chicken sales.
I like it. It's a virtuous cycle. Okay, folks, we're going to jump to your questions. I see the questions building up. So let me jump to them. First one up is Marlene Taylor asking, do we import chicken in Jamaica? And I think the answer is yes.
Lots.
Yeah, lots of chicken. And that was the debate we just went over. And June James say, no, we should not import chicken in Jamaica. So appreciate the support there. Chester Francis Jackson, how do you farm your chickens? Do you have a mother farm, or do you use satellite farms to diversify your earnings base to include small farmers?
Yeah, we all our farmers are contracted to us, and it's our chickens on their farm. And the only farm that we really have that we operate is our research and development farm, where we test feed and feeding systems and watering systems and those sort of things. And but everything is pushed out and contracted to those 60 farmers, and it's incredible because we're seeing generational investment now.
And these coop sizes, I remember being at JPS, Chris, when you were pushing to
Right.
automate these guys and get them energy
Yeah.
to lower your costs. These coop sizes have become incredibly large, 20,000, 40,000,
Yeah.
60,000.
They've gotten real expensive with the run up in all of these, the cost of steel and all of that. But basically, they're 20, 30,000 square feet.
Wow, amazing. Okay, O'Neill Johnson asks, what is the onboarding process like for a domestic farmer to become a contracted farmer by JBG?
The basically the onboarding process is one where you obviously approach the company in writing, and then we have a team that examines what it is that you're bringing. So you need land, and you need to be in specific areas and that sort of thing. So it's not 5 acres next to a housing scheme.
Right.
That doesn't work. But basically, once we go through that, then we start talking through what the investment looks like, what financing looks like. And then, I think usually it takes about a year 18 months with just lead time on stuff. No, it used to take less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
But before you get actually birds down on the ground.
Got it. Okay. And Philip Burgess asks, are you an exclusive supplier to KFC Jamaica?
KFC Jamaica is one of our best customers, and they've been a long-time partner in our business. We enjoy doing business with them. And as far as I know, we are a sole supplier. I'm not, that's up to them. But if we do a good job and we produce the quality and quantity that they need, I'm convinced that they will stick with us.
Excellent. And we won't see KFC coming onto the market. So I'd rather own some JPG. Dominic French, any plans to expand your high pro business to North America?
No, to be quite frank. I think one of the things we would consider is actually expanding to Montego Bay. We see a lot of growth taking place there from an economic point of view. So I think that's something that we're going to be discussing in the next couple of years.
Got it. Wow, I'll take three more, guys. Between Jamaica and North America, what do you think will be the greater driver of profits in the future?
Well, the challenge, Jamaica is a country of 3 million people versus a country of 300 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the growth potential over the medium term for the United States is considerably more than Jamaica, just given the sheer volume of people, the sheer size of the market. So I think,
don't forget the purchasing power.
and the purchasing power. So I think that without a doubt, the foothold, or using Chris's analogy, toehold in the United States can be a significant step forward for the company.
Good deal. And we're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes, guys. Gary, I'll allow you one more question. And Chairman, I'm sure you'll take one more question.
Like every time I ask a question, you're the chairman just take over.
I'm telling you that. Go ahead, Gary.
Benefits for being in the studio, G.
Sorry?
Benefits for being in the studio.
Oh boy, I tell you. So Chris, when you speak about the fact that you're the largest in the United States, where are the expansion plans? You mentioned that there's a company in Europe. So would you be going to Europe to expand in fertile eggs there? Is there another continent, South America, for example?
No, I think we're going to continue to expand in the United States, Gary, and be very strategic about it, because that market is very unforgiving, and you have to be careful not to get ahead of your skis on this one. So the challenge that you face is when you have a customer that has 1,000 supermarkets and you're in 100, and he wants your growth plan because he wants to put you in all of his supermarkets, you need to be very wise, because as great as that sounds, if he on Monday morning says, listen, I'm switching, I don't want it in my supermarkets anymore, your entire business is gone. So you have to be very, very wise and very strategic how you move and not get ahead of yourself in that market.
I think, Chris, one of the things that's not very clear to the audience is that you're not only doing fertile eggs in the U.S. Can you explain what is the length and breadth of the business that we're doing in the U.S.?
Yeah, we have expanded our business in the U.S. to produce chicken meat very, very similar to what we do here in Jamaica, where it's on the supermarket shelves, and it's going to wholesalers and food service, what the segment we call out here restaurants, and it has done well. We have distributors that carry it. We have supermarket chains that take it directly, and the brand Best Dressed Chicken is gaining a lot of recognition out there. So you can see it. We actually opened up a new customer in South Florida last week, which was quite exciting.
Oh, excellent. I'll have to tell my mom to make sure she gets herself some Best Dressed Chicken up there in Kingston 21.
There you go.
Okay. This is an interesting question. Will there be a stock split considered in the near future?
I don't know. You need to ask our advisor, Mr. Berry.
Mr. Guru, do they need a stock split?
No stock split.
Not required. You know, there's a little...
I remember when they were challenged to get past $10. People never thought Broilers could break out of that. Now we're at 36.
Yeah.
No stock split.
Not required, eh? You know, I'm more excited, and that came from Dominic French, I believe. I'm more excited to see the next 2-3 quarters results, to see interest rates peaking and then flattening out, which I think will happen over the next 2-3 quarters. We're obviously watching U.S. inflation, what's going to happen again for the rest of the year. But, you know, I personally believe, Gary and Chairman, that we're going to see interest rates flattening out, certainly on the downtrend come next year. And with lower interest rates, our PE ratios are going to fly on the market. So I'm going to predict, you know, a year from now, our PEs will be back to 12 times on the main market. So, you know, this stock is inherently undervalued by 20% just by virtue of that, on top of the idea that they've got these loss from discontinued operations that will be completely out of their trailing earnings in the next 2 quarters, certainly in 4 quarters. And so the potential of this stock is amazing. And I don't ask for a comment here now, Mr. Levy. This is Dan Theox analysis. So imagine, guys, $5 billion profits, 12 times PE. This is a $45 stock in my sleep. And so folks have to just keep watching the results quarter by quarter, watching the trends with interest rates and inflation. But it's hard to bet against a company like Jamaica Broilers Group. So well positioned, great management team, and I do want to give a big up to your dad, Robert Levy, for what he's done, the foundation he's created, your brother, Stephen, for the work he's doing over in North America. So this is a family-run business on strong Judeo-Christian principles. Big up to Solofield Church for producing a lot of great businessmen. You know, so good principles, very focused, with a market that's only going to get stronger. You know, we talked about 4,000 hotel rooms under construction now, another 4,000 to come. These tourists eat a lot of meat, and we produce good chicken in Jamaica, jerk chicken in particular. So I'm in love with the business, Chris. It's a no-brainer for me. Chairman, final comments for you?
Well, Chris, glad to see you again. Thanks for coming and sharing with us. And, you know, I mean, guys, I've been telling you to get in on this one from, what was that, 26, no, 36. Get on a train. Don't make it leave the station without you.
Well, that's it, folks. Chris, you know, always a pleasure having you here. We're going to have you back again. And again, folks, just remember the numbers, because when we come back in about, 6-9 months time, I promise you they'll only get better. So that's it, folks. Really appreciate it. As promised, we'll now announce our winners of the social media giveaway, courtesy of JBG. So I want to say congratulations to Shan for Life, at demos.treasured, at G. Wayne Martin, and at Ali Realtor. Congratulations, guys. Reach out to us and you'll get your prizes. So that's it for today's discussions. I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in today as usual. Your support is always appreciated. Of course, I want to give special thanks to Mr. Christopher Lee for being here with us and participating in today's discussions. And of course, for Chairman Barry for being with us in studios, Gary Parrott for being with us online. Thank you, everyone, for your support and what you brought to the panel discussion today. To our viewers, be sure to look out for updates on our virtual investor forum from us on social media. We share all things forum related on our social media pages. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. Keep safe, folks, and remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica.
What is love? Love is what my mom did to raise me right. I guess that's why the best dressed chicken is the only chicken in my home. It's grown with no antibiotics ever, so that means it was raised right too. The only thing I can't figure out is what mom does to give it that little extra love. The best dressed chicken is simply the best chicken. If anyone's going to add something to my chicken, it's going to be me.
This is your moment.
The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.